Kelly, well, let's call the meeting to order at 4:34 p.m. Kelly, could we ask you to take a roll? Are you playing Melanie today?
Actually, Jennifer is here and she will be
Oh, I didn't
playing
see her.
Melanie today.
Okay,
But I'll go ahead and take roll. Let me pull out the list here for a second. Since we have new members now, I can't just do it off the top of my head anymore. All right. Okay, so go ahead and do roll call here. Skip Kaiser,
Sure.
Richard Beck,
Yeah.
Kevin Brooks,
present.
Jill Barwick. Scott Warren emailed and said that he would be on vacation today. Gary Woodruff,
Here.
Ron Sartori, Greg Ciapponi, and Steve Duff. A lot of summer vacations happening right now. Oh, also I forgot Jason Gramlich.
Quorum.
Did you say Barb's name too, Kelly?
I did, yeah. I looks like she's not quite in yet.
Nope.
So I don't know if we want to hold on for a sec.
We can hold on for a sec because we need a
Need a quorum.
Yep.
quorum to approve, right?
Kelly, I know I talked to Gary earlier and he said he got a notice last week about this meeting. And I didn't get it for the last two meetings. So somebody's off the list.
Okay, maybe we need to do a test email with you, Richard, on something else because your name is on the list on our end.
I understand.
So yeah, so why don't we after this meeting, I will send you a test email, and then if you could email me back and let me know, and maybe what we'll do is just re-enter everybody's email one more time into the reoccurring email and see if we can get it to work out. But first I'll test it just to make sure, and it'll come from the school planning and construction email, not from like me, Kelly.
Yeah, that's what I look for.
Mhm.
I'm only on for one more meeting, aren't we, Kevin?
Two more. I think we're still in attendance in November, right?
I believe so. I can double check that, but that's what I was operating under. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I was operating under you guys being here for the November one as well. That would be your swan song.
Jordan, there's somebody in the attendee that said Napa 2010. I don't know who it is, but.
Oh, I think that's Jill.
Okay,
One more and we have a quorum. I wonder, Mike, if you're texting with Barb, do you think she could just call in?
Yeah, she said, I'll ask her that question.
Okay.
We don't have a quorum yet.
No, we have right now because we have the new members and the reoccurring members. We have a total of 11 members right now, and we only have 5 on the call. We need 6, right?
Yeah, so the new members were appointed to serve, begin serving, and we increased the size of the committee.
Correct.
Okay. I did not know that.
Little bit of overlap between outgoing and incoming. Dun, 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 dun.
here we are, Barb.
All right, so I will not redo roll call, but Jennifer, who is keeping minutes, we can note that Barb and Jill have both entered as well, so they're present. Barb and Jill, can you both just say hi so I know you can hear me?
Yes, are we connected?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay, good. Well, I'm
Jill?
not great, but we're connected.
Jill, are you there? Can you hear us okay?
Jill, you're muted. If you're talking.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank
but
you.
I lost all your little pictures.
Oh, no.
I'm looking at a black screen.
Well, luckily you're not seeing Richard then.
Well,
I think about that a lot. Thank you.
hang on for 1 second. I'm in a screen share, and if you can at least see what I'm screen sharing, then we're in good shape. So
Okay.
why don't we start with that? So let me go here and screen share real quick, and then you can let me know if you see it.
Nothing so far.
Yeah, hold on. It's taking a second. Give me 1 moment. Almost there. There we go. Can you see it, Jill?
Now it's all white.
Okay, so we're waiting for Jill to log back in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's okay with everybody. Maybe we can at least just go through, like, we can check. Jordan, do we have any members of the public?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Wait, so can I ask a question? We had quorum, we called the meeting to order, right?
Yeah, true.
So we can keep going even though we've lost quorum. We just can't approve anything.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Well, oh, here she is. She's coming back.
Approval is different from acceptance.
There you go. How about now, Jill? Can you see the screen? All right, well, why don't we try, if we don't need it, we don't need to vote. I don't know if acceptance of the agenda is different, Carlos. I've never had this issue before. We have acceptance of the agenda as our next item.
Well, we have a quorum right now because Jill's online, but
Uh-huh.
maybe she can signal her assent to the agenda in another way.
Yeah, that's true. Jill, if you can hear us, we're not hearing you. Could you possibly give us a thumbs up on Zoom and maybe you can use that to vote?
We will assume that's a yes.
Oh, did we see? I didn't see a thumbs up, but
Is her chat working?
I
She's,
have no idea.
she still may be having issues. I actually don't see her on the attendee list or the panelist list at this
Oh,
point.
that's weird. And I can still see her on my screen. Okay. Well, I don't know how to proceed then.
All right, so Carlos, can we jump to an agenda item or do we have to have the agenda accepted before we move on? And is the acceptance of the agenda, given it's not approval, can we move forward without a quorum? In the past, we've done that.
So look, we can present whatever information was going to be presented. None of that's a problem.
Okay.
So we can probably we won't be able to take any actions insofar as there is a formal action to be taken by the committee today. But we can present all of the information that we were going to present. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Great. Then maybe we'll just hold off and
Let's
maybe Jill can we can do the approval of the minutes later in the meeting when she's able to vote one way or the other.
Hey, Carlos, is the approval of the minutes an actionable item from a quorum perspective?
I would
Or is
think
it?
so. Yeah, if If she
Okay.
doesn't come back, then we can just roll the approval of those minutes to the next meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Oh, there she is.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I could hear you, but I didn't even have a
Okay.
picture or any way to even, I had nothing to unmute. So I vote yes, whatever it was.
Okay. All right. We have a hard stop at 6 here, folks. So let us get going. Okay. So I believe we have a quorum established. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. Acceptance of the agenda, which is before us here.
I motion to accept the agenda.
I think that's Barb. Do
It's
we have a
Barb.
second?
Gary will second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have an acceptance of the agenda. Unanimously accepted. All right. Item number 4. Approval of the May 11th, 2022 minutes. Can we pull those up, please?
Feel free to
Right.
let me know if you want me to go to a particular section. Jordan, are we recording right now? I'm sorry, it's hard for me to
Yep.
tell with the screen share.
We are
Yes.
recording.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, so let's scroll through the minutes. Welcome new members. Section 5. Any comments there? Skip, I think you had an email earlier today.
That was just a general email. The only reason I added you on there was because you're the leader of the pack. It doesn't, I don't think needs to be
Doesn't apply to the
discussed.
minutes? Okay. All right. Okay. Let's scroll to the next. Yep, perfect. Oops. All right. Review expenditures, project update, old business. All right. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Okay. All right. I'm going to assume there are no comments or questions on the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
All right.
I'll second. Skip.
Jill and Skip, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. We will dispense with item number 5 on the agenda as there are no members of the public present. And we will dive into the meat and potatoes of today's meeting, which is a deep dive on the financials. So Gary, you're representing the new members. So really the intent of today is to roll up our sleeves and dive into this and ask the questions that need to be asked so that folks can understand format, content, how the reports are organized, how all this relates to the Measure H and all that other good stuff, as well as have a lively discussion on the funds that are enabled via Measure H as well. So with that, Ms. Kelly et al.
Yeah, sure. So For Gary's benefit, I will say we don't go through this detailed report at every meeting. Sometimes we have business in other ways, or sometimes we go into a specific project and look really closely at that one. But it's been a while, as Kevin said, since we've done this. So this is the big report. You can see it's 105 or 6 pages or something like that. So there's a lot to it. Page 1 just gives you the background information on the bond. Page 2 is just basically a rolled up summary of the bond and where we're at to date. And then we dive into individualized reports. I don't know, Patty, if you have anything you want to add, or if members have questions. There's kind of a lot to this, but
Yeah, I would just simply say, yeah, we start out kind of high level. This is, well, our system is a true database. And so behind these numbers, there are lots of detailed numbers. So if there's something specific that you're like, you have more questions or want more information, that certainly is available. The district wants to be fully transparent with the information. We've tried to organize it in a fashion that ties back to the district's bond implementation plan in the various categories that they have organized projects into. Yeah, we'll go the big portion of it from like page 33 to 102 is in essence the expenditure report summary that organizes it in the 3 main categories: site planning, construction, and then under that are the subcategories of expenditure categories. So, but yeah, there's a lot of information behind this detailed, but this is presented more in a summary fashion.
Kelly, was Patty introduced?
no, I think everyone knows Patty, but not Gary. That's true. So Patty, you can go ahead. Gary is one of our new members.
Hi, Gary. I'm Patty Paulson. I'm with Key Analytics. I'm the Senior Vice President, and we help the district track. We have a full web-based project tracking system that does a lot of compliance type of reporting, but in particular for this district and this committee, we are providing the bond oversight reports.
Thank you.
One of the other things I wanted to note is that you can see on this page here, this is our project summary, what we call pre-closing. So the district fiscal year ends on June 30th. So this is the summary of everything to date before we close the books. Once the books are closed, there is a period of time where everyone is working to get everything finalized, to reestablish POs at the district level with in business services. And so we like to take a snapshot right before that happens so we can have that record. And then once everything's closed for the year and cleaned up, then Patty does another update. And next time we have a meeting, we'll have that information, but just a definition of what pre-closing means. That this is the snapshot right before the finances are closed for the fiscal year. So rolled up summaries by project grouping. But before I go a lot further, I don't know if anybody looked at this report and had a specific section or question that they had, because I'm just going to start scrolling, but maybe there's an area of interest that someone wanted to look at.
And Kelly, just one comment. So the way all the reports are organized, so the budgeted, encumbered disbursements, the budget remaining is the budgeted column less what's been encumbered. Those are the POs and contracts the district has entered into. And then the encumbered balance takes the total encumbered column minus less what's in the disbursements. So that's how those calculations work. And that's consistent throughout the reports.
Okay, so just from a high level, right?
Correct.
The budgeted is 272, right? Which is different than the 274.
Right.
Yes,
Right,
so
which is the interest.
274, it accounts for the interest, but also it accounts for our contingency for Measure H. So we don't allocate every single dollar to a project because that way if there is an emergency or an issue that we have to deal with, one project goes too high, one goes low, that's the extra money, our cushion money. It's also in the implementation plan as well. So you can just see we're carrying a program contingency, so we won't allocate every dollar.
Right. So I'm sorry, the 1.6 million in contingency is a program contingency.
That is correct.
Separate from the contingency within each of the individual project budgets, right?
Yeah.
And the contingency values, just for education purposes, the contingency values within the project budgets, roughly speaking, range from 5 to 15%, something like that ish.
Yeah, I would say 5's a little low, but yeah, we go around, I would say 8, 9, 10 to 15%, depending upon the project.
Okay, so the 272 here excludes the program contingency line item.
Correct.
Okay,
Because it's just showing you what we've budgeted, what we've allocated to projects, not what doesn't show that extra money that is unallocated.
and so when, given that we're at the end of Measure H, for all intents and purposes, when does that 1.6 get released to fund other Measure H projects?
I think we'll probably visit that at the end of the summer. We have several major projects happening right now in this moment. We'll get to those in the project update. So with all of those construction projects still hanging out there, we're going to let that contingency ride until we finish up all of our summer projects and feel really good about where those are at, and then probably circle the wagons on a future project that would be consistent with the bond language and with the buckets of money that we've already established, but where we can do a little bit more. And that would be a decision that would really happen, you know, at Mike and Rob and Rosanna's level, as far as what the future project would be.
Is there still 1.6 in that million? Is that still available? Or have you spent a lot of that?
No, so the 1.6, what Kevin is talking about is this is our budgeted number. So this is how much, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not, but under the budgeted column in blue, 272 represents how much we have budgeted to projects. Some of that money is encumbered, some of it isn't. It's what's been allocated to various projects. Then if you go up here, you can see 274 and change is what we have total. So what we're saying is the difference between these two numbers is our contingency, and no, it is not spent. By definition, it is unallocated, unencumbered money. It's money that we have that's extra.
Kelly, $535,000 is not and change. You said 274 and change. That's not change.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Okay, so 272 is the budgeted, of which 263 is committed or encumbered. And by disbursement, I mean that's checks cut, right?
Correct. out
That's
the door.
correct. Mhm.
Okay. And the budget remaining is the
Budget less encumbered.
So for instance, if I have a budget, let's just say we have a budget of $1 million. And to date, I have written POs for $950,000. Okay.
right.
Then the 50,000 remaining in that budget would show up in the budget remaining column. So it's
So-
money that we will likely need during the course of the project, but we haven't encumbered it to a vendor yet.
Okay, so it's the difference between the encumbered column and the budgeted column.
That's right.
Okay. And what is the encumbered balance column?
The total encumbrances less the disbursements.
Okay, so committed monies, but not, no checks cut for that yet.
Right, it's the balance of the POs and contracts the district still has yet to pay out as work has been, gets completed.
Okay,
Yeah,
so in
you've
this,
got a contractor that, is under contract doing work, and he's done 50% of the work. He's going to get paid 50%. That other 50% will show up in that encumbered balance.
okay. So 9 million to be committed. 7 million to be committed, but not yet spent from a high level.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Any other questions, anybody on high level? Gary, jump in here if any of this is
No, it makes sense.
accounting speak.
This is almost the same type of budgeting
Right.
system we used at Sutter.
You have a head start on other folks based on your previous life. Okay.
So this is just a breakdown of the different, you know, in the past, we call them buckets of funds. So our different types of projects. We know this group loves a pie graph, so.
Right, and this many pie charts in the annual report, so glad to see we're having a positive influence.
Then the next section just takes each of those categories, like this is seismic, and gives you a further breakdown by each campus.
So of the 269 or 274, roughly 92 million went for seismic, right? That's what we're saying. That's what this
Yep.
shows.
Not, yeah, 91.8.
Yep.
And
And
as you can see, we're nearly done with the work in the seismic bucket.
Okay.
Emergency is done.
Mhm.
And then the growth, which is the new construction and modernization.
Our biggest category as far as types of projects that live within it. So this list is significantly longer than the others. Another indicator of, you know, we're sort of at the end of the bond is how you see a lot of zeros in this remaining budget category. That's because many of these projects have been wrapped up. So that's why you're seeing more zeros there. You know, we have a total budget and we've spent it. Sometimes there's some encumbrances hanging out here that, you know, are not quite completely paid out for one reason or another, but we're kind of coming to the end of a lot of these projects.
So I'm sorry, the previous page is the growth and modern. No, not that one. One more down. Yep, that one. This is growth and modernization. Or just
Yeah, the
this is just-
system calls it growth, but in the implementation plan that we've shown you in the past, it's called new construction and modernization.
Okay, so
It was
this
just
is
called growth early on and it hasn't been changed in the system.
okay. So this is growth and I'm sorry, this is new build and renovation, right?
Yeah, just what page, we're on page 10, so I don't lose my spot. Let me go like this real quick. It is this section of the implementation plan that I know you've all seen in the past, the modernization and new construction section. These projects here are these projects here, but instead of being separated by the type of project, you know, is it a fence? Is it a field? Is it campus mod? Here we're separating it by campus. So you can see how much from that section was spent at Alta Heights or Bel Air or Browns Valley or what have you.
Okay.
And Kelly, I can change that for the next report. We can call it new construction and modernization to be consistent.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on?
Yeah. Why is there so much remaining budget for American Canyon Middle School? Because you're still working on it? Is that?
Yeah, that's the remaining budget for Measure H, includes all of the change orders and things we'll need to be settling up with the contractor on. I know that you were actually there today, Richard. So you can see that the construction is still well underway. So we have things that we'll need to settle up with them on.
Very good.
Okay. If there's no questions, we can move on to the next category, which is
This is, oh, I went too
Safety.
far. There
Yeah.
we go.
Page
Safety.
11, safety, yeah.
okay.
So that's basically fencing. The category on the implementation plan is titled fencing, but the majority of it is fencing and some of it is signage, but that signage is also associated with security fencing.
No cameras?
Cameras do exist. They're actually under a different section in technology, which we'll get to in just a second.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So again, from a high level view, right? 274 million, 4 million of which went for safety
Yeah.
or fencing. Okay.
All
And
right,
this
there
is
we are,
technology,
technology. Yeah.
Right.
So within these different sites, there are several aspects to technology that include this, but one of which is the cameras. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to scroll ahead again like I did last time and come back. So We're on page 12, go all the way to the bottom here. It's not letting me. There we go. So within that section includes the technology projects that are listed here, radio security cameras, public address system, front of classroom, which are the new Promethean boards, one-to-one devices, data redundancy. Furnishings was an old item at the beginning of the bond, but they were related to technology because it had to do with kind of outfitting some of the libraries with new furniture, more consistent with the new technology needs. Emergency Operations Center, voice over IP phone system, and then upgrades to our cable and Wi-Fi systems. So that's all included. That list of subheadings of technology is all included in this section of the report. And as you can see, we pretty much touch every site with this one. That's why the list is so long.
And Kelly, is the technology completed now since everything is zeroed out?
Nope, still some money hanging out there.
Okay.
So
And as
let's-
oh, go ahead. Sorry, Kevin.
No, let's just summarize that for a minute. So there was actually two subsets of bonds that were sold. One
Mhm.
was for technology. So 27.9. So again, sorry. Okay, so 20 million has been committed or encumbered against the 27.9. So there's 7.8 million that has yet to be committed or encumbered. And then the difference between the committed value and the spent value, a check's not issued, is about 250,000.
There you go.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
That's okay.
Wait, Kelly, does that
Yeah.
include the laptops that they have anything to do with the laptops that all the kids got?
It does, yes. The line item that I just mentioned, one-to-one devices, those
Yeah.
are the laptops.
Okay.
All right, and capital improvement management is a shorter list.
So this is, I'm going to call it PM&R type projects, right? This is, oh no. this
Yeah.
is-
Well,
it's-
it's a weird like a catch-all, because in the beginning of the bond, they were doing what they called small projects out of this heading. We haven't done that in a while. But the most of it has to do with consultants and entities that work in the management of the bond overall. But it also includes, like you said, some small projects that were done earlier.
Okay, so this is where the, so planning and construction, right? That's the management in-house, and you guys, that's where all those costs are encumbered, right? Or committed, right?
Yep, so that would cover things like in-house staff that work on the bond, supplies, things like that, maintenance and operations when we have work that they perform that is associated with the bond. Consultants such as myself and Patty, both our firms are out of this heading, as well as quality bidders, who does all of our pre-qualification work. Legal counsel, our friend Carlos, is paid out of this heading. So anybody that is not allocated to a very specific project and we're just there managing the goings on of the bond, land in this heading.
Including the auditors and anything like
That's
that.
right. Yep.
Okay, any questions from the team on this category?
Oh, another good point too is this category holds the expenditures to date for the Vintage High Farm. But it will not hold the future expenditures, because the future expenditures will come out of the sale of the property and state grant funds. So the money that was spent to date to get the project to where it is now came out of this pot of money, but future spending will not. All right, well, if no other questions.
Yeah, and the next section just gives you more information by, again, takes all those 6 categories and rolls them all up into one site report.
Mm.
So this is like a accumulation of every type of project organized by site. And then the next section organizes all the projects by project type.
So this is an interesting one because it shows you how the Measure H funds were distributed by campus. And as many of you know in the committee, we built some all new campuses, so large chunks went to particular sites. I'm just scrolling. Please feel free to stop me. All right. All right, so this is what Patty was just talking about.
Kelly, was River School on that list?
Yes.
That one we just went past?
Yeah.
But it's not called River School anymore though, right? But you still call it River School.
I believe we call it River at Salvador. Oh, yep, just River. There it is right there. No, the name just changed literally over the summer.
Right.
And the construction was associated with the new name. So I'm not sure if we'll change it in the system or not. As far as the accounting goes, it gets a site code that allocates the new site so that we can keep track of it.
Right. And this American Canyon Middle School number 2, the $4.5 million is essentially waste, correct?
I wouldn't refer to it as waste, which
yeah, I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't refer to it as that, but yeah, I mean, but did we build the middle school based on those plans? No, we did not, and I think we've discussed that before.
Yeah, no, we have. I just wanted to make sure that was the number. So if anybody asks, it's $4,500,000 essentially.
Yeah, don't say and change, please.
I didn't say and change. We have to be cautious about what we're talking about, Mike, with the new bond issue coming. That's what I'm saying. We have to watch what we say.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Well, and by the way, waste has a very specific meaning in the law, so we don't want to use that word.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, to be precise, right, that was for design fees and permit fees, right? So that's what that, and consultancy fees.
Correct.
Preparations to the site, things like that.
Was the land included in that?
No, we already owned the land some time ago.
That's what I thought.
All right, Patty.
Yeah, so the next section just takes the same 272 million and just shows it to you now organized by project type. So this will include the roll up of every, like the seismic, but it just breaks it out at a more detailed level. The district identifies by what they call a management code. So you'll be able to see of the 6 major categories the implementation plan was around. This just breaks it down a little bit further. And then behind this, you'll actually see a more detailed list of every campus with every single project under it.
All right.
That's this next report.
Okay, this is the monster one.
Yeah, so this will take every campus you'll see, and then under that, regardless of the, the type of project, it's going to give you the list of every project done that was, in the implementation plan, but broken out at a campus level with every project across all the different categories, or buckets as Kelly calls them.
Yeah, so you can see here, like for instance, Alta Heights Elementary School, they got a new finishing kitchen, they got fencing, they have campus modernization, they got an upgrade to their technology infrastructure and fiber, and they got a new voice over IP phone system. So it shows you what projects took place at each site or are underway as we speak right now. So for instance, the school safety, the fencing is something that's literally happening at Alta Heights right this minute.
So the way we read this report would say that Alta Heights got five projects on campus.
Mm-hmm. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5. Mm-hmm.
That's about 10 pages. I think that takes you
Yeah.
down, or 9 pages. It'll take you down, I think, page 32.
All right.
What, so, but the ones that you actually rebuilt, are those more than 5? Or is it just the same?
Oh, well, we can look at those. So for instance,
Yeah,
No.
it's still, yeah, it's still just 5. Okay, everything's 5.
well, no, not necessarily. Like it looks like Vichy only gets 4 here.
Yeah.
So it does depend. In this case, like Snow's a good example of that. So they obviously, most of their money went here. But we did have to go back and do a small amount of fencing. So we did have some fencing. They had a small amount of work. Something had to go back and it fell under campus mod. There were still upgrades to their cabling. And so I'm sorry, I'm talking about Willow. I'm in the wrong one. Willow is the same example though. There was a large project and then there were some small allocations that went there. So the difference would be if you look at Willow and Snow, they have one large allocation and then just, tens of thousands in these other pots. If you go to something like Alta Heights, you can see they have campus mod for a larger amount. And they have they have bigger chunks of those allocations because they didn't get a whole school.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Basically, it looks like every school got new phone systems and networks.
Yep.
Are the networks redundant? Do they have dual switching and that kind of stuff in their cabinets, or how's that designed?
I would love to have Rob take that question because he knows a lot more about that part of the work than I do.
Sure, absolutely. So you do have to define redundant, because the way that we pay for internet.
Well, yeah, that's a different step. Yeah, but I mean redundant in as far as the networks set up in the schools, where you have dual switching, that kind of stuff, dual fiber.
You still there, Rob? I think you're on mute though.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry about that. I'm in my car. So school districts no longer use dual mode fiber. They use single mode fiber, which is faster. And so no, school districts don't have a redundant system. Like there's not no schools have 2 sets of switches, right? So every classroom, basically the way it works is the internet comes in at the school district office to our master switch, our MPO, and then from there it travels by fiber to an MPO at each school site, the entry of the internet, and then from there it goes out to each classroom. So it's like you can think of it as the center of a wheel and spokes. And so no, there is not a redundant switch. Like if a switch goes down, we always have a spare switch to replace the switch. But in every classroom that has a switch, or district office, there are a number of switches based on the number of feeds going to that, but it's not redundant, meaning if it goes down.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
fine.
System, yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. I just asked. That's all.
Okay, whoop. Sorry, can we scroll back up, please? Okay, so this is all so these are individual. I'm sorry, Kelly, I'm not remembering. Why are there so many line items under business services? Is that broken by fiscal year?
It's under planning and construction. Yeah, they were breaking out like consulting contracts and then the construction management piece by fiscal year.
Oh, you're muted.
I'm talking away. I'm muted. Talking. The original folks in business services had it set up this way by fiscal year. You can see their older fiscal years and a lot of them. And then what they did is they combined the management codes so that we wouldn't have to issue a new management code every year. So just so we're clear, the management code is here. So the third set of numbers, so the 7030, in this case, the one I just clicked on, that is the management code. So the way that this works is there is a site, and the site code is indicated by the first digit and the second and the 3 digits after it. So in this case, 4 indicates that it is a non-school facility. So it's part of the district office's system. And then 926 is specific to school planning and construction's office. It would have a different code for transportation's office or for the district office where the ed center is. So that indicates that we're a non-school site, that's school planning and construction. And then each of these management codes indicate a project. So to give you a simpler solution, I'm going to scroll back to this in a second, but a simpler example of this would be like Vintage High School here. So they're a high school, so they get a 3. They're 990, that's their site specific code. And then their management is 7120. 7120 indicates that it's a field project. So that ties back to a specific project on the implementation plan. Up here, you can see Napa High has the same thing. They're a high school. Their site specific is 989. And then again, 7120, that tells us it's a fields project. So this we call the management code. That is the code that tells everybody what is the specific project we're doing. So back to your question. Down here, what was happening is every fiscal year, they were opening and creating a new management code for the same services, when essentially, really, it's just the same service over and over again. And that was, I would say, Patty, that's atypical. I mean, I don't know what you see. Yeah. Okay.
You don't need to do that.
So when we had a change in leadership over at business services, we started just using management codes for stuff like this and keep using the same one year after year. So 7030 has a lot more money in it than the others because that management code has taken on over multiple years.
And Kelly, we can change that in the system. We can actually put, 1920 through, current year, whatever.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
I think we should do
that way
that.
it's a little clearer in the report. I appreciate
Yeah, I'll
that.
make a note on that.
Thank you. So you can see it for consulting contracts, construction management, resolutions. They were doing that, and it gets very cumbersome for the folks in accounting to track all that. So I hope that makes some kind of sense.
Yeah, what's the undesignated?
Undesignated are things that land outside of the normal projects. And what I can do, I think we did this a couple of years ago, but I can run a report on undesignated for the next meeting and show you guys some examples of those. They just don't fall neatly into a particular management code. But I believe a couple of years ago we did that. We ran an encumbrance report on undesignated and talked about it a little bit, but I'm happy to do a refresher on that.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, no
I think
problem.
that would be good to do. Excuse me. Okay, sorry to be dense here. Can you scroll up back to a school site?
Yeah,
just for
sure.
example? Okay, so that's good enough. So the Vintage High School, right? So we're saying that Vintage High School, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that they had 11 projects on campus, right?
Mhm.
These are grouped by projects.
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank you.
All right.
You'll see the same 272. We just slice and dice it. It's the same because it's a true database. The data will always be the same. It's just giving you more detail. And this next section is what we talked about. It's an expenditure summary at the site planning construction level, the 3 main categories under each project. And then it's further broken down by subcategory. And you'll see going across horizontally, like what's under site, what the subcategories are under planning, like the architect engineering fees, DSEA fees, et cetera. And then construction, main construction, construction management, demolition, all the various categories.
So is it,
That's a huge report. It goes all the way down to page 102.
Yeah, and I also wanted to be clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, but this is an expenditure report, not a budget report. So it's just going to show you what we've spent, not
Correct.
what we've budgeted.
Correct.
So
This
if
is
a
it, yeah.
project's in progress, it's not going to show you everything. It's just going to show you what we spent today.
Right. So if you went down to the end, that would show you all the checks that have been cut out the door payments.
so this takes the expenditures for each project and breaks it into the standardized categories, expenditures within each of the standardized categories for each of those projects.
Correct.
So in the example we just had with Vintage High School, where we had 11 projects on campus, this would take the 11 projects and show the expenditures per the 4 categories for each of those 11 projects.
Correct. And then you'll see on the grand totals, it's going to summarize everything, site planning, construction. There's the $256 million of payments that have been made against all the projects.
Okay.
All right. And then at the bottom here, we just add in our most recently approved implementation plan.
And Kelly, I just noticed a typo on, I didn't change, if you noticed
Oh,
that
yeah.
last page. So I'm like 12/10/2020.
No, you're right. That didn't get changed, but that date is correct.
That
down
date is
here.
correct. I can make that change and send you the new report
Thanks.
for posting.
It's February 10th, 2022. So I think this was just from the old slide.
Yeah.
But this is when the board was approved. It was in February of 2022. So it just shows the breakdown. And I know that we've gone over this recently, but we like to include it in the report for context.
Yeah, the data is correct on the last page, just the header. I
Okay.
will correct that and send you a new report.
So let me, Gary, this is every year, right? Fair statement, Mike, every year staff presents and board approves updated plans that reflect how the Measure H money is being spent, and it's
Yes.
called the updated implementation plan.
Yes, that's correct. So we've chosen as an organization to bring that on an annual basis to the Board of Education to have them approved.
Okay, and then so the Measure H funds, including the program contingency, is 274. And then there are other funds that are enabled by Measure H funds, right? Excluding the developer fees, but there's funds that the district goes and is able to get from the state, I guess, qualifying funds, probably better words, right? But that's facilities and state funds, right?
Correct.
That's Fund 35.
Correct.
So the 274 enabled an additional budget of 27. And then there's developer fees, and then there's disposition or property sales and donation. So all those factor into the overall district capital plan. Fair statement, Mr. Pearson?
Yep, fair statement.
Okay. And the key analytics report only covers the 274, which is the Measure H fund. So the question, Patty, is does the key analytics system have the ability to also track those other funds?
It
Yes.
does.
Yeah, we are actually tracking all the funds. We upload out of the district's escape system. So we're tracking and reconciling all those funds.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to see these same types of reports for the overall total, right? The 315 or 316, that would just be a matter of selecting different boxes on telling the report what to spit out, right?
Correct. It would be the filters within the filtering.
Filters, yeah. Okay. Gary, any questions? Not trying to pick on you, just
No, no.
wanted to give you opportunity.
It makes sense. And it looks like it's pretty flexible as far as being able to dive in deep and see it on the surface in many different ways.
Okay. All right. So the key analytics report's been used now for 3 years, 4 years. I've lost track.
About 3 years.
Do you guys have any takeaways as far as lessons learned relative to Measure H, relative, I don't know, to the categorization or organization or coding, what I would call coding?
Well, I think
Anything you would do different to set it up in the future?
I think the one thing I'd say is kind of what you brought up earlier that we just discussed is how you set up managements in the system. I think now that Patty and I have wrestled with it for several years, I think we probably, you know, if we were lucky enough at Napa to get another bond, I think that would be a recommendation I would have, would be to sit down in the beginning and talk about how we want to assign management codes and how we want to code in SACS, which is the district's accounting account line system, and how we want that to translate to the system. I also want to shout out that we recently got a new director of fiscal services who is really great and has been working really close with the school planning and construction office, just making sure everything's really organized. She has a really strong background in this, so that has been really helpful as well. So I think that there have been lessons learned with how we assign the account lines that I think could be helpful in a future bond.
Kelly? For me, as a member of the committee, it's been easier for me to understand how the money's being spent and being able to look at the key analytics report. I think that previously it was a little more cumbersome before the district moved to key analytics. And in terms of my learning curve and understanding how things are organized and things are being done through key analytics, I would definitely support the notion of, if we do have a new bond, to continue, you know, with key analytics, and then having you and Patty and Mike or whoever the business service people are, you know, sitting down and looking at how this was done and how can it even be better. I mean, any citizen can come in and look at this, and it's pretty easy to understand the way it's organized. So it's helped me a lot. So I just wanted to share that.
In danger of being a commercial for Patty's system, I will tell you that we do work with other systems at other districts, and this is probably the most flexible and user-friendly system that we've worked with. We, meaning Van Pelt Construction Services, for tracking expenditures for school construction. So, I mean, I really think that Napa made a really good choice in going with them. And I can say that because I'm not the person that made that choice. I'm just a lucky recipient of that happening. So I'm not patting myself on the back at all, but really patting Patty on the back for having a great system that's really easy for all of us to work with.
Yeah.
Kelly, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
This thing that's here now, is this going to be online, available for the general public to read this?
It is right now.
Is it yeah, I know that, but is it going to be available so that the public can actually figure out where it is?
Yeah, so to get to it right now, if you were interested in looking at it, you would go to the district's website.
Right.
You would say, hey, I want to learn more about Measure H.
Yep.
There's Measure H. If you just wanted to see our current implementation plan, you would click that.
Right.
And it would come up. If you wanted to learn more about being a bond oversight committee member, you'd click here.
Yep.
And then you go to meeting documents right here. And then here's every document you guys have ever seen in a meeting.
Right. That's right. But I'm talking about my neighbor who is complaining about the lack of transparency. I want to be able to tell them, you don't have to go to the site. You can go to there to look at what all that money was spent at, without having to go to our meetings documents. I mean, it has to be explicit to people, I think, who are complaining that we're wasting our money on stuff, and I tell them, well, look on the, and they can't find it easily. I'm
Invite
just-
them to contact me, Richard, and I'd be happy to set up a time to walk them through this.
Very good.
So maybe asked a little differently, the key analytics reports are grouped by meeting date as a primary sort, right? So maybe a different option for consideration. I think what you're trying to say, Richard, is having a separate link just to the key analytics reports.
Yeah, so that people can just click on that without having to go, yeah, that just says, so that they can say, well, I don't know what the money's been spent. You can say, go here to that one button there and click that, and that'll let you see what the money was actually spent on. It might.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, we can certainly
You
improve
might
upon that,
make it
but-
short, more condensed, maybe.
Hang on, Richard, but I don't disagree with that, but I do think it's important that we tell people to contact us. We'd be happy to walk them through it, because just clicking on the link and looking at it, as you can tell, sometimes it does deserve some explanation.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, because it's explained 3 different ways, but I mean, maybe just explain it one way instead. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
I'd love to tell you it can be super simplistic, and I would defer to Mr. Brooks, who also does this sort of work too, but in a different sort of realm. And it's just tough. It's just tough to make it super simplistic for people to understand.
I mean, when you're managing so many different projects, hundreds of projects, you know, they all add up to big numbers, and people get sideswiped, you might say, by looking at big numbers and making assumptions or making judgments on these things, and not realizing all the small granular details that go into it. It's tough. I mean, you want to make it easy for people, but when you make it easy, then you miss the granularity, which is where all the details are.
And Mike, do you really want your phone number given out? You might.
Well, Jill, fortunately I have this phone number here that's kind of a generic phone number. So if you give out my cell phone number, I'll be a little upset with you, but otherwise I should.
All right. I had any other questions on financials? Gary, is there anything?
No, that looks good. I looked at this a little bit, previously.
Okay.
It makes sense, actually. And it's very similar to, many other budget programs that I've used through the years, especially on projects. So it's good. I like it.
All right. So notwithstanding the aforementioned commercial, Patty, question for you on the last grouping of the I guess I forget what the name of it was, the management.
Capital improvement management.
That one is that so that was sort of program and project management costs, as well as PM&R, minor projects type thing. Is that based on your experience? Have you seen that in other districts done that way?
Yeah, typically, most districts will have kind of an overall arching category. I've only had a couple of districts who have tried to reallocate those overarching costs to individual projects. And quite honestly, it's an accounting nightmare. It's easier just to be able to be really forthcoming with, hey, this is what it is costing to provide the overall bond support costs of running a big, large program. So this is the more common way I see it done. I think what Kelly had mentioned about not having to use, we always go back to the chart of accounts to set up how to properly kind of set up and manage a successful bond program. And for the most part, the district did a really good job. I think in that category in particular, where they were setting up a new management code every year, it just made it a little more cumbersome. It didn't need to be done that way. But I think, live and learn, and it was already done that way when we came in. So, but I think with the new business staff, that they simplified that, and we can make some of those adjustments in our system. Our system's extremely flexible to be able to accommodate all of those types of changes. So however, we kind of help districts guide them on how to best set it up, but it really begins with their chart of accounts. And that includes all those different codings, including the project type coding.
Okay. So takeaway is not uncommon to have a general cost category or cost of chart of accounts for general program project management that remains there and doesn't get allocated or recharged to the individual projects.
Correct.
Okay, not uncommon to have as part of that a phase code. I would call it a phase code for minor smaller type PM&R projects as well.
Yeah, I mean, those could have been allocated, you know, if the district wanted to set up another category, that we call them project groupings, or like Kelly defines them as buckets. We could have pulled in a small project grouping. So this was just kind of a catch-all, and we can even change that grouping name for capital improvement management and small projects. It's whatever helps, clarify how it's being captured.
Okay.
So Kevin, I just want to do a quick time check. We're
Yep, time
at
to move on.
5:40. We did start late. So I just trying to keep things real here. And we have a number of agenda items to go through. So I think Mike is going to be leaving us at 6. So
Yeah, I appreciate that, Barb. Anybody else have any questions on finances? All right.
All right, with that, I will say good night. Everyone have a wonderful evening.
Thanks,
thank
Patty.
you, Patty.
Okay, bye.
All right, well, we're on to project updates. So I know we wanted to take the opportunity to just inform the committee on where we're at with some of our summer projects. So right now we are undertaking fencing at multiple campuses. So the left-hand picture is from Northwood Elementary. This fence that you see being installed right now is up. So if you've driven by Northwood lately, it will not look like this. There will be a fence there. And then the top right is an example from New Tech High School. We're also installing fencing this summer at Alta Heights, Bel Air, NVLA, and Phillips. I don't know, Mike, if you have anything else on fencing that you'd like to share?
Nope.
All right. Okay, so we're on to campus mod. This would be summer number 3 of the campus modernization work. So those of you who don't recall, when we do a campus mod project, we typically repaint the building, replace the HVAC systems, and re-roof. So top left is Napa High Gymnasium. So you probably remember from prior updates that we replaced the windows up here in the top left last summer, and also repainted the interior of the gym and did a nice little cleanup in there. So this summer now we're working on the exterior, replacing HVAC units and re-roofing the gymnasium. Wow. Bottom center is an image from NVLA. Campus-wide, we are replacing roofing, replacing HVAC systems, repainting, and doing probably the most civil work we've done on a site so far. There was a lot of access compliance issues at NVLA, a lot of buckled pavement, a lot of bad transitions and sloping pavement. So we're doing a lot of that, which is essential when you go to DSA. They look for you to improve your access compliance. So that's also a huge part of this project. So if you've driven by NVLA lately, it is torn up. Top right is Redwood Middle School's gym. They are also getting a new roof and new HVAC systems. This summer, we had a real need at that site with some roofing that was failing in a major way. So this project was kind of moved to the forefront earlier this year to get this work done. So NVLA, Napa High, and Redwood Middle School are the ones that are getting the love this summer.
Kelly, quick question. On the work at NVLA you mentioned, does DSA mandate a percentage be set aside for ADA?
Yeah, so if you have above 20% of your total project cost associated with access compliance, you can file what's called a hardship application with DSA and basically tell them, look, if I do all this work, I can't even do the work I'm asking you to do because I have so much access compliance to do. So you can file that if you choose. If you as a district know that you've got a lot of issues at a site and you just want to pound those out and get them resolved, then you can choose to do more than that 20% and not fight DSA on it.
And Kevin and well, committee, we've also made some decisions about improving some of the access based on what Kelly was mentioning. There's like natural places where you can stop it, but if it doesn't make sense to stop it there, then we're making the decision. I'm making the decision to move forward to continue with it, so that it's there's not that person scratching their head, go, why did they stop there? Sort of idea. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
All right, so also happening this summer are finishing kitchens at NVLA and Bel Air. So while we have one contractor running around repainting, re-roofing, and redoing HVAC, we have another contractor in the kitchen doing kitchen modernization. So top left is NVLA. Their project started in June. Bottom right is Bel Air. Bel Air is just finishing up. These are both with the same contractor, bid together for a little economy of scale, but we staggered the starts on these projects so that we would not impact food services with having two kitchens out of commission at the same time. So we started early at Bel Air and we'll be finished in time for the start of school. And then we started in the summer at NVLA and we'll impact a little bit of their start of school, but then be out of their way pretty quick. These will follow the same model as all of our other finishing kitchens to date. Any questions here? All right. All right, American Canyon Middle School. So we wanted to give you a couple of pictures. We've given you lots of fun pictures of the inside of the building and what it's going to look like, but we wanted to see, wanted you to see the impact to the overall site. Really interesting, and I know that Gary and Richard got a lot of this information earlier today when they did a site walk with us, but we have really dismantled the entire interior of the campus, as you can see here. It's going to be like a whole new site when we're done. And if you take a look standing here, this will be the new amphitheater, the picture on the left, and we're looking back toward admin. And in the original layout of the campus, there would be a large building between us and admin, and the campus was completely split. So now we have demolished that building. It's going to be wide open, a lot more space for moving around. The entire site is getting repainted as well, and they're pouring concrete as fast as they can. So I don't know, anything to add on here, Mike?
No, I just want to express how transformative this project is going to be for the school site. And that we used for the first time ever the design build model, and it's proving to be a very very good decision that we use the design build model for this project. The value that we've received, the collaboration between the architect and the contractor has been unbelievable, and what we're getting in return is just is stupendous. And I think I'm really, I'm cautiously optimistic that people are going to be extremely happy with with the product that they see and will be able to experience for many, many years.
I was very impressed with the openness. I'd been at the school back in the 90s when it was first opened, and it's nothing like it was. It's quite amazing.
All right, well, thank you. All right, we're moving on to our next agenda item.
Okay. Old business.
So we just have a reminder here to the committee that we carry at each agenda item moving forward now, a link that shows you where to find the Measure H main page and where to find the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee page in specific. And so that's just a reminder. The next item here is just, we wanted to update the committee. In the past, we let you guys know that, our marketing efforts in Napa obviously yielded more committee members, which we're really pleased about. Since then, we've also been marketing to the American Canyon community. So we have run ads in the American Canyon Eagle, which is an online newspaper now, no hard copies, but we did do a set of ads there, and also information about joining the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is part of the city manager's last 2 newsletters that they've sent out in American Canyon. So we've been working with the city as well to try to get some excitement about getting some new members to our CBOC. All right, last item here is site tour and small group follow-up. So Gary and Richard went on site tours with us today, and that was great. We are going to be rescheduling Barb, who expressed some interest in going on site tours as well. If anybody else has some interest moving forward, let us know. And then Mike, I know that you were interested in talking briefly about the small group meetings for Future Bond.
Yeah, so if there are folks that would like to hear what we've discussed with our ideas around the future bond and potential and projects that we're recommending, we could schedule that. But now that since the board has taken action to authorize us to pursue a school campaigning for a school bond, I have to do those sort of after hours, so essentially kind of after 4 on that. So just to put that out there, that I'll have staff reach out if you're interested. I just have to conduct those meetings later in the day versus during kind of my normal work day because of the education codes, quite frankly, that spell out what I'm able to do, what I'm able to talk about, and what I'm not able to talk about during my work day.
Those one-on-one meetings, or is there a limit to number of people in those meetings?
I think we can go up to 3, Kevin.
Mhm.
Okay. Back to the site tours. Has anybody else reached out about those besides Barb?
Nope.
Okay, I'd like to go, but the dates that were out there at the time didn't work for me.
Oh, okay, great. Well, when we work to reschedule, maybe we can find some time that works for both you and Barb and tour you guys together.
Okie dokie.
Melanie will go ahead and reach out.
All right. And as far as the small group meetings,
we'll have Melanie reach out to you as well too, to see if we can schedule those, and then we can have up to groups of 3 as well. And like I said, I just have to do those roughly at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Melanie's moving furniture, Mike. That's what she told me.
She is moving furniture, but she'll finish that by the end of this week, Richard, and she'll be ready to take on a new task.
Okay. And none of those small group meetings have happened to date. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay.
You've seen half of that presentation. So you saw the polling data, but there's a follow-up to that polling data, which is what we wanted to share with this group as well too. But now that, like I said, that the board's approved this pursuing a school bond, I have to do it in a certain time frame.
Okay. All right. Okay. Next item, new business.
Yeah, so
my dog has new business. Sorry.
just as a reminder, the board did take action at the June 23rd meeting and authorized us to pursue 2 general obligation bonds. So those 2 specific SFIDs, one for the city of American Canyon and one for the city of Napa. So we've started that process of essentially, working on fundraising for the campaign, and then putting into some things for that, organizing a crew of volunteers to help us out, as well as utilizing expertise from legal and bond elections folks as well. We will have, if both pass, we will have 2 separate Citizen Bond Oversight Committee meetings. And then if only one passes, we'll have it for that specific region. But I would wholly welcome the opportunity to have 2 Citizen Bond Oversight Committees. I know that may seem strange, Mr. Brooks, but I would. That would be a good problem to have on that. So I want to stop and see if there's any questions on that. Okay, and then on the next one under specific comments, so we're looking for, and we can either discuss it today and throw out ideas, or it can be something we should bring to the next meeting. But I know I would personally like to be able to have a way that we have a procedure for reviewing and closing out outstanding comments that are in the annual report that is submitted to the Board of Education. And so to decide what's the input of the plan, the level of detail, and the procedures for addressing each concern, so that it meets the needs. It meets the needs and expectations of our bond oversight committee members. I think there's sometimes I'll speak for myself. I think we as a district, we feel like we do that, but that's not what what I'm thinking is, and what I'm feeling is not necessarily what a bond oversight committee member is also feeling and thinking. So I want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our bond oversight committee members. Just, it may be that we take one particular topic that we have not, as a suggestion, one particular comment that we haven't yet closed out on, and as an activity, work through what would be that level of detail that we would like to have achieved, and then we go do it, and then bring it back to see if we've achieved the level that the bond oversight committee is expecting, as a suggestion.
Yep, no, appreciate this being on here. So I think we should obviously dedicate some time for this next time, and probably at least two buckets of issues, right? One is a process, and two is a format I'll use the word as-built because I think that resonated one time when we had this discussion previously, but an as-built record of specific comments that were raised throughout the life of throughout the life of the bond, associated with the various annual reports, that progression and how they were closed out. So yes, this should be an item for the September meeting.
Kevin, could I offer another suggestion?
Of course, Mr. Pearson.
So everyone, another suggestion could be to maybe speed this along, at least for discussion purposes at the next meeting, is that if the committee felt it was appropriate, Kelly and I could meet with, for example, Barb and Kevin, and maybe one other member. We could look at a particular item and start to use that item to put together a template, and then bring the template back to the committee when we meet again. September, I think, is when our next meeting is. Again, just as a suggestion.
I would nominate Skip. I know Skip is hugely excited about that.
Well, two comments about that. First, I don't think it's the committee's purview to tell the school district how to respond to the comments. The school district ought to have enough wherewithal and depth of knowledge to be able to respond to any comments that we make. And those comments can range from, we agree wholeheartedly and we'll implement this tomorrow, to take a hike, we think it's not a very smart move, or somewhere in between. The second comment I have is that I think it would be, I think the committee would be well served not by having somebody who's about ready to head off into the sunset.
Good point.
But one of the members there, which would help with the transition.
So Skip, I appreciate that. Sort of, and I appreciate the way you framed the responses. And I guess from my lens and overseeing this particular portion in the school district, and I'm not saying you don't agree with this. I would like to be able to make sure that what we're doing is that the level of detail or whatnot is there for the responses. And I, sometimes I think we do. Like I said earlier, I think we feel like we've done that, but it hasn't resonated. So I just want to check and make sure that where we're at is what response we're going to provide does meet that. But I do appreciate what you said. I guess I'm just looking, to have a little bit more collaboration on what that looks like in response.
Well, since I wrote the comment, I'll give you a quick drop on that. The biggest heartache was that after the initial response, which was something like, we'll look into it, for example, there was no follow-up for, I think in some cases, for over a year. And that just tells me that it's sitting on somebody's back burner. It isn't getting the attention that the committee thought it deserved.
And that's a great point, because on my side, if we say we're going to look into it, we do look into it, we do take action. I'm not aware, it's a miss on my part for not then bringing it back to you to say, here's what we did. So that's very helpful what you just said, that if we say we're going to look into something, you expect us to come back and report back on that. And I appreciate that.
Anyway, so I think Kevin and whomever and any one or two of the new members, I guess we can't do a quorum, would probably be better served than having me attend.
Okay.
I think it'd be worthwhile too to, there's only been about, a dozen comments we've ever made. It would be nice if we get a chance to look at them, not for me, but for the people who are new people, to look at those comments and see how they were resolved as well. Because you don't necessarily want to go to the same place you were before, but the idea of the questions that we're asking, I think is what
yes,
help
right.
members out.
So what I'm conceptualizing here is, there's a non-quorum group that meets prior to the September meeting. We talk about format and process. And Skip, I agree with your first 2 points, that it's ultimately up to the district to respond, to tell us to take a hike, or they agree wholeheartedly with a recommendation, or somewhere in the middle. And then at the September meeting, we will take the log of comments and, just run through those in the interest of representing, okay, over the 5 annual reports, I think that's the right number. This is the evolution of the comments. I do think there's value in standardizing the process and standardizing the format for tracking these for many different reasons. Any comments to that? Anybody? Any comments to that proposal?
Yeah, because the next annual report that's going to be written has nothing to do with the 5 of us who are leaving. We're not going to be there to add our input.
Right.
We're not writing it. Skip
Right.
and you aren't writing it for a change. And Barb.
Okay.
Sorry, Barb.
Yeah, Barb's not termed out, I don't think.
No, she'll be there. I think she'll stay.
Maybe.
Barb is excited about staying.
No.
Okay. Optimism and enthusiasm. All right.
So
Everybody,
some direction, Kevin. I'm what I think I heard, I'm going to try
Yeah.
to set up something where we start to work on this prior to the next meeting. And then we'll bring what we've talked about to the next meeting, if I
Right.
heard correctly.
Yeah. And Mike, I'm going to I would like to have someone else from the committee to help with that, just because of some other responsibilities that I have right now.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Why don't we do this? If you're interested in being part of that group of 3, you can email sbc@nvusd.org, the email that we send you guys all your information on, and let us know, hey, yeah, I want to be part of that. And then we can, the first people that show interest, we can have that be the group.
okay, we'll move on from there. All right, we are out of time here, folks. Future meeting and agenda items. Any comments on that?
First 2 are just reminders of where you can find documentation. They also exist in your agenda that is part of your packet. Discuss hybrid versus in-person Zoom meetings. I know, Mike, we're waiting for board action on that, so that might come in the form of an email. That's correct? Okay,
Correct.
good. And then this was just a heads up that we'll need to be setting a new meeting cadence at the next meeting. I know that the committee wanted to put that off until we had some new members, which we do now. So we'll be submitting a meeting schedule. You folks can discuss it and then vote upon it, since our last meeting that is scheduled right now is in November. So that's just a heads up on that coming up.
Yeah, and then another item that I would like to put on the future agenda when we have our meeting, Kevin and Kelly and Mike, is the California School Boards the California Association of Bond Oversight Committees, which Mike and I have talked about before. They are having a virtual statewide conference on October 15th from 10 to 1 p.m. And it'll be, I will send this information to you, Kelly, so that you can get it linked into the agenda for people that are interested in attending. They do a really nice job. Mike and I attended a conference there a couple of years ago, and they're a pretty first-class organization, and it's really nice to interface with other people from other communities that have bond oversight teams. So I will add that to the agenda.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anything else on item number 10, Kelly?
Looks like Skip has something to say.
Oh, sorry, Skip.
I'm not sure this is the right point, but before we all disappear into the sunset, I'm a little disappointed by the attendance at today's meeting, particularly with some of the new members and even more so, I guess, with the present members. These next couple of meetings, I think, are going to be critical to a smooth transition. And I think it ought to be an all hands on deck evolution. No need to comment on that. That's just my 2 cents worth.
Can you hear me? I have a suggestion too, is that when I started these, you gave us this folder with all this information in it. And now is that right? I mean, with the bond itself and what the original plan was, I think it would be help the new members if you gave them something of the same, a physical piece of paper that they can look at and look back and say, oh, that's what this was for. Just for history, if not nothing else. But I think, Mike, that comes from you, not from anybody else.
Mike had to log off because he had a hard stop at 6.
Right, I understand.
Yeah, so that was the binder we all got when we started.
Yeah.
with it.
Yes.
Binder, and I think some of the stuff in that binder,
I agree.
especially when we started, was really important. Now, of course, it's part of what we've done, but for somebody new, it would be really helpful to sort of keep them on track of what they want to do.
Well, I feel deprived. I never got a binder. Thank you, Rich.
And give one to Jill too.
Well,
and
Richard,
Barb probably never got a binder either.
I did. I actually did get a binder, and I have to say that I go back to the original bond language that was on the ballot oftentimes after some of our meetings, just to make sure that we are doing what we said we were going to do. And that was probably, of all the materials that I got, was the most helpful. And I have it, I keep it with all of my things. And I think that, at the end of the day, going through an activity and going back through that and looking at what the bond has accomplished, I think would be a great way to celebrate all the work that people have done with Measure H.
And I know you can get this stuff online, but mine has notes all over it and things like that as well. So, I mean, it does allow me to more than just look at things online.
Yeah, agree.
So I guess the question would be, and because I'm happy to do it either way, and we'd be happy to put something together, would be for the new members, and that includes Jill, because I think you joined during COVID land, so that was kind of rough too. Gary and Jill, since you're the ones on the call, do you have a preference? Because we could put together something digitally that we could share with you, or we could put together a hard copy. It's whatever your personal preference is.
If I get things digitally, I usually print them out anyway.
Okay.
So, if you want it to be presented in a certain way, or maybe minified somewhat, maybe it would be best if you printed it out.
Great.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I prefer printed also.
All right, great.
Good recommendation, Richard. Thank you. Okay, any other future meetings or agenda items?
Nope, I think we're good.
You think we'll ever meet in person again?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I think we will.
Okay, with that, it is 6:10. So given our 4:48 kickoff, we're actually 8 minutes early.
Yep, good job, Kevin.
And thank you all. Gary, thanks for being here. Thank you all for being here.
Oops.
Two-legged creatures and four-legged creatures alike. And we will see everybody perhaps in person at the September 14th meeting.